This is a classified government document. Information that was never meant to be seen by the public. Reports indicate an anomaly detected in a restricted zone. No scientific explanation exists for what was found. This place should not exist in our world. But before you continue listening, do not let this information consume you. Do not believe everything you hear, because some truths are created for a purpose.
Sergeant Volkov's consciousness flickers like a dying flame. The last thing he remembers is the deafening roar of an explosion, the searing heat against his skin, and then silence. His eyes flutter open, but instead of a battlefield, he finds himself lying on a cold, damp floor beneath flickering fluorescent lights. The walls stretch endlessly, covered in sickly yellow wallpaper, their repetitive patterns unsettling. A faint, nauseating buzz fills the stale air. His instincts scream danger. Where is he? How did he get here? His hand reaches for his weapon, and this time, it's there. A standard-issue machine gun, resting beside him. His fingers tighten around the grip, feeling the familiar cold metal. He checks the magazine, one full set of rounds. Not much, but better than nothing. Then he hears it, soft footsteps echoing in the distance. He isn't alone. "What the hell is this place?" Sergeant Volkov exclaimed. Sergeant Volkov steadies his breath, gripping his machine gun tightly. His pulse pounds in his ears. The footsteps, soft yet deliberate, continue, echoing down the corridor. His training takes over. He presses his back against the damp wall, scanning the dimly lit hallway. The fluorescent lights above flicker erratically, casting distorted shadows. The air feels heavier, suffocating. He exhales, keeping his focus sharp. Then the sound stops. Silence. His grip tightens. Did it leave? Or is it closer? A distant thump shatters the quiet. Volkov instinctively raises his gun, aiming down the empty corridor. A shadow shifts at the far end. It moves unnaturally, jerking, flickering in and out of the dim light. Something isn't right. Volkov exhales sharply. Shit! His survival instincts scream. Fight. Or run. "I don't like this," Sergeant Volkov muttered. Sergeant Volkov's eyes narrow as he takes a deep breath, focusing on the shadow at the end of the hallway. His instincts scream at him to move, but every nerve in his body tells him to stay alert, stay quiet. The shadow shifts again. He's not imagining it. He moves slowly, carefully, his boots making barely a sound against the damp floor. His machine gun is ready, but his eyes are on the prize. Whatever that thing is, it's moving closer. He can hear the distortion in the air, a sharp, almost inaudible hum that grows louder with every step. The sound of something heavy dragging along the floor is getting closer. Volkov's pulse quickens. He edges forward, trying to stay out of sight, but the walls seem to close in on him. His breath is shallow, his mind racing. A loud bang echoes down the corridor, followed by a sharp screech. The sound isn't human. It's mechanical, like something heavy and broken. It's coming for him. "I'm not backing down." Sergeant Volkov talks to himself. Sergeant Volkov halts. The dragging sound is now almost on top of him. He can feel the hairs on his neck stand up. His breath is shallow, his pulse racing. He's been through hell before, but this is something else. His hand tightens around the machine gun, ready for what's to come. His mind races as he weighs his options. Fight or flight. But there's no escape from this nightmare. Not yet. The footsteps stop, and for a brief moment, the silence is deafening. His eyes dart around, scanning the hallway. Every corner could hold danger. Every shadow could be a threat. But there's nothing. Not yet. Suddenly, the wall beside him cracks, a deep groan filling the air. Volkov barely has time to react before something sharp shoots out from the crack, narrowly missing him. He jumps back, barely avoiding it, and the sound of scraping metal fills the air once more. "Come on, let's finish this!" Sergeant Volkov raises his machine gun, preparing for combat. Then it emerges. From the crack in the wall, a twisted humanoid shape crawls out. It's a grotesque fusion of machinery and biological human forms, with metal limbs interwoven with flesh. Its skin is a mottled gray, like that of a corpse, with scar tissue covering its entire body. Its black, hollow eyes stare at Volkov with an eerie calmness. The creature's movements are slow, deliberate, almost mechanical, as if it knows he is there. Volkov doesn't hesitate. His training kicks in. He raises his machine gun and fires. The sound of the gunshot echoes violently through the corridor, the noise deafening in the confined space. The creature staggers back, but it doesn't fall. Instead, it seems to grow angrier, more agitated, its movements now jerky and erratic as it closes in on Volkov. "What the hell are you?" Sergeant Volkov shouted. The creature recoils, its body jerking as it stumbles back into a corner of the hallway. The mechanical parts of its limbs creak as it struggles to move. It's no longer the relentless predator. It's injured and trying to find cover. With a final guttural hiss, it retreats into a narrow space between the walls. The creature vanishes into the shadows, no longer visible, leaving only the sound of its frantic retreat echoing in the still air. Volkov stands still, his weapon trained on the spot where the creature disappeared. The silence is deafening, and the adrenaline pulses through his veins. He knows it isn't over. It's just biding its time, waiting to strike again. He doesn't let his guard down, his eyes scanning the hallway, waiting for any movement. "You think you can hide? Motherfucker! I will find you!" Sergeant Volkov shouted. The creature has disappeared, its presence lingering in the air like a dark omen. Volkov doesn't lower his weapon, his senses on high alert. He knows the battle isn't finished, it's just a temporary retreat. The hallway stretches endlessly, and he knows that whatever comes next, he must be ready. With steady hands, Volkov moves forward, carefully watching every shadow, every corner, knowing the creature could strike at any moment. Where are you?" Sergeant Volkov spoke up. Not long after, the hallway stretches endlessly before Volkov, the dim flickering of yellow lights casting an unsettling glow. But there's a shift in the air, something heavy, something familiar. The hum of machinery, faint at first, grows louder as it echoes through the narrow space. The walls seem to pulse with a life of their own, jagged patterns forming as if the room itself is breathing. Volkov's heartbeat quickens, his senses sharpening as the weight of the atmosphere presses down on him. The sense of something or someone nearby claws at his instincts. It's not the creature, but something else. The sound of boots, the clink of metallic equipment, and a soft murmur of voices signal the presence of others. His grip tightens on his weapon, but he knows he's not alone anymore. He turns a corner, the air feeling thicker, colder. Ahead, figures in tactical gear move with the precision of soldiers. They stand firm, their eyes scanning, their weapons at the ready. They are professionals. They've been here before. The leader of the group steps forward, her face hidden behind a mask, but her eyes lock onto Volkov's with sharp authority. She pauses, clearly studying him. There's suspicion in her gaze. "How did you get in here?" The back rooms aren't easy to access. Not many can find their way in. Leader of soldiers asking. Volkov was confused by what he found, so he asked a question to make sure it was a human being. "Are you even human, or something else entirely?"